Squeegee podcast, episode 15, with Rob from Visible Art.
Hey, there you are.
Hello, good to see you.
Good to see you. How are you today?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Thank you very much for coming on. Appreciate it.
That's okay. Obviously, Tom will do an interview with you another day, I think. So
Yeah, I think I'm booked in with him next week, actually. So,
oh, right. Nice. Okay.
yeah, may I just start by ask you to introduce yourself and talk about the studio a little bit and the types of things that you do in your studio?
I am Robert Trigg. I run a company called Visible Art. That's been going for probably about 18 odd years.
Wow.
So it started because I think I just felt I could do a better job doing it myself rather than working for other people. And
so you're commissioning other people originally, like?
No, I had no interest in running a business. I mean, as you know yourself, I know how hard it was watching my old boss doing it all. Mm-hmm. And it was, it's just the way he did it, which was extremely hard. And as a printer, you kind of always have different ideas of doing things, isn't it? And so when you work for someone else, it's very difficult to sort of express what you feel that it's best to go down and so on. Mm-hmm. And that was it really. So he I worked for him for sort of 12 odd years. So I've been in the business for a long time now.
Nice.
And
okay.
Yeah, and so I worked for him. He decided to stop. And I was going to go back to uni and do something else and so on. And it sort of friends have said that why don't I try it before I do anything else?
Yeah.
And that was it. So I just thought I'll give it a go, thinking I can go down and surf every few days and just print for a few days and so on. But it didn't work out like that. Obviously, it's a full-time job, and if you're, as you know yourself, you print for a few days, but you end up spending just as much time doing a lot of preps and so on.
Yeah,
talking to customers and things like that. And you have to be around for customers. So that sort of got busier and busier, basically.
Yeah. Why did you call it Visible Art?
It was a name that came out of a different venture. So I was helping with a place called Tactile Bosch at the time, and that was very much of an art place. Lots and lots of extremely talented artists that didn't have a clue on how to show their work.
Yeah.
So how to make it financially viable.
Yeah, exactly, monetizing it.
So I sort of came up with the idea that I would take their work, go to offices and get the offices to take the work on in, put it all up in all the offices spaces and so on, foyer, and making sort of their workspace a bit sort of nicer to be in. Yeah. So I sort of said, look, I'll do all this. I'll go and take it all into these places and call it visible art. So it just means that
I see. Okay.
It's visible. Yeah. So that was it. So that was all set up, ready to go. And then obviously the business came up then with the printing. So I sort of ran it as a similar thing for a bit, running both businesses and so on. And then eventually, obviously I had to give one up because this one was getting quite busy. So this came about and stuck.
Became a big monster that you had to keep feeding. So what kind of did you already kind of inherit some kit from buying out another business, or did you manage to did you have to invest in your equipment from the start when you made Visible Art as the screen printing studio?
Yeah, you inherit a bunch of customers. So my old boss carried on. He carried on and decided to stay out of screen printing. So for a while, I went into screen printing, and that's what I loved, and that's what I did. And he sort of stayed in the vinyl and digital, and he was one of the first to go into digital and all that kind of thing as well. So we sort of worked together for a bit, and gradually I sort of took on, I inherited his price list,
Right.
which obviously is a nightmare to change once you sort of inherit something like that. And that sort of, over time, I realized that, you know, if I wanted to carry on and to do a job well, you can't really do it on a budget or cheap printing. And so as time went on, my prices went up, and I lost customers that way. But, you know, at the time it was fine, because I wasn't really too bothered with you know, I wanted to have a bit more work-life balance. I was working silly hours with them. You know, it's sort of, when you work for someone else, it's the job, you have no control over timekeeping, the job sort of criteria, things going wrong. You know, I'm amazed, you know, for yourself, that you allocate time for printing, and then and then you do other things. But that's, you know, when things goes wrong, or customers change things last minute, it's like you can't do things.
I get that the plan sometimes falls apart, especially if you get like sent all your shirts and you don't give it, like, you basically now have to have your shirts delivered, then give it like a 3-day leeway just to get the right shirts delivered to you, because you're like, you've missed all these, and I've got some dresses extra. Like, it's really tricky.
And when you're working through, you know, when you're working through the shirts as well, something's wrong, you know, it's a minefield on all that. And so it's sort of, I wasn't bothered, and as time went on, we were stuck with a very low price list for a while. And we changed the way we wanted to do things, as I realized really early on, probably about 15 years back, that we really needed to go down the environmental route.
I saw you had like the green promise, which you've like got a huge statement on your website about. You talked to us about those types of things.
Well, the Welsh government, in their wisdom, which was fantastic actually, because obviously a lot of people are calling for this, it's you can go and join all the different sort of society, they're all privately run, you know, that you get all these certification and so on, and they all cost quite a lot of money. And we ourselves went and looked to see whether we can get soil station approval and all that. And when you start looking at it, it's a nightmare, because it costs quite a lot of money. You also run into a whole load of issues, and how well you want to do it is also another matter. You know, if it's quite difficult to do it full hog, you know, to trying to get everything in place, and it either costs a lot of money, or it takes a long time to get in place, and to get all the material and all the equipment and the type of energy saving, or the type of inks you're supposed to be using. And that is, you know, unless you start right at the beginning like that, but it means you have to have so much knowledge
from the start, prior to knowing what the knowledge is that you need. It doesn't make sense, does it?
So it's great, you know, you don't know what to ask, you don't know what you need to know, and the worst thing is as you begin to do it, go down that route, you realize there's more and more and more stuff you really need to know. And also, if you want to do it properly, you need to do more of it than just less. And that in itself was quite an issue. So we took years to really get anywhere. And so really then you go down to bite size. You grab bits that you can do. And I think that's the best advice, really.
So what are the first things that people can do, like you said, like a smaller studio would be able to afford and put into their system?
That's hard.
Okay. I think it's probably the garment choice, right? Because on your site, you've talked about working with, like, is it Continental and Stanley Stella, just because they've already baked that into their line. So that's an easy choice.
Weirdly, we've always used, as a company called Cherry Pie before Continental.
Okay.
And they were brilliant. I loved them. They've gone under now a long time.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but we went with them for a long time. I wanted to go with them. It was expensive. They were really considerate, and they really wanted to go down the route of that. And then it sounds mad that 15 years ago doesn't sound that long ago.
I know.
In eco sense, it was a, people cared, but not in the way they do now. And I think really Stanley and a lot of companies like that have spent a lot of time educating customers and ourselves as printers. And even now, there's only a handful of people that do what we do, and insist on using Stella and Continental and the more environmental garments, trying to get people to buy higher quality. Yeah,
I think surely, just when I did it, I made like a decision, like right there, I was like, I can't deal with it, I'm switching over. Just when you give the boxes over to the customer, and every so often they want to open the box at the front door or something, and you get to see it, and then the quality of the garment and the printing go together, but they just get so much more excited when they can like feel it, and then you can, it's like they're attributing that quality of the shirt to you and your printing, and it does like elevate it a little bit. But I just don't know why you wouldn't want your customer to be excited like that.
They see the price. They see the price, and that's what they're worried about. It's also depending what part of the country you're in as well. We in Cardiff historically have had issues with pricing. Yeah, and it's only really again been recently that the attitude of spending more than £20 on a designer, a t-shirt that's been designed by a designer, not a label itself, but from a personally designed person. It's only now that people are willing to pay more for it. Right. Before, if you go over that 20 quid, that's it. People don't want to know. And that, we're printing for a certain price, and they have to sell it on at 2 or 3 times markup itself. Yeah, I see. Okay. To make money. And it's sort of, and that's where you are. If we're working on stuff that we buy in, then we're having we're really caring on what we do. And it's not just the price of the shirt. The ink we use is generally, if you buy the more ethical products, it is more expensive. Partly not because the ethical side of it itself, the chemical, is very much of a muchness, but it's whether you look at where you source it, what part of the world it comes from. Right. The fact that if it hasn't got certain product in it itself, they have to use other chemicals to bypass some of the ones that are more harmful. The other one is simply that they look after the workers better. Yeah. And with the environmental side of attitude, it's also to do with people's work environment. Massively, yeah. And for them to care, for them to do their job well, for them to produce something nice, and it goes hand in hand. The whole lot goes hand in hand, with something that you buy that is good. How
do you go about explaining to people, because I'm sure you get it as well, where people ring you up and they're like, oh, I got this call the other day, genuinely. So he rang me up and he said, I've just got 1,000 bags from Bangladesh and it was 20p a bag. And I'm like, I'm not printing on that. And he's like, oh, why won't you print on it? And I said, well, there's a few things. I like to supply the bags so I know where they come from. It doesn't sound like you can trace back where they were produced. So it could be that that wasn't an approved or regulated factory. And he was like, he kind of kicked off a little bit, but it's someone else's job now. He can bring his box of crumpled, crappy bags that God knows what sweatshop produced. He can have them, but I'm not printing on them. But like, how do you kind of like bypass people who want to bring you stuff that they've already purchased that you know isn't in line with the stuff that you're going so hard to source yourself?
We work the middle ground ourselves at this moment. We basically a good sort of, again, 10 years back, we were doing some work for a lady that again, local, and she did a lot of stuff on baby's garment, and we were buying in ink especially for that, which has to be, you know, a lot safer. So, and we had a lot of stock on the shelf for those kind of things. And at one point it was like, well, why are we got multiple stuff here for different, you know, adults and children and things like that? And so we made a switch over, you know, that we just thought, well, we'll go down this route of just everything that is chemically safe for us and for the customers itself. And we then spent a long time trying to educate customers and to buy nicer product to print on, because it's pointless telling people that we got all these ethical stuff to print on, but they give us really, you know, shoddy stuff. And I mean, at the end of the day, you have to start somewhere. You know, it's quite a luxury to turn around and say, I'm not going to do certain things.
Yes, no, I understand that. I do appreciate that a lot of people can't, because they're at that size where they have to keep a turnover of a certain amount, and they've got lots of like people to pay and all that. I do get that it's a luxury. It's just I can't take it in and then
well,
do all my research over here.
You can think of it a different way, as in, you know, you don't have a go at a friend for not recycling.
No, I genuinely wasn't trying to have a go. I was trying to say, if I'm honest, I don't want to pick out bags that are all crumpled and crappy anyway, and missized and stuff.
Yeah. No, to be fair, economically, it's pointless as well, because you're having to deal with very badly made products, and you're trying to print at a price that is worth it for you. You know, and yeah, I mean, in a way, you know, it's better to turn it down, because it becomes a nightmare anyway. And also, to be fair, that kind of customer do become a nightmare to deal with, because they want it cheap. You know, we spent a long time trying to figure that out ourselves. You know, that do we just turn around and say, no, we're not going to do any of that, and just, you know, work with the nice stuff itself. But in the end, we decided it was we would educate people more. You know, we would say that I've had a call. This is something that came up a long time ago. I've had a call that was similar to yours, where the guy rang me up that had been printing from India and so on, and said he gets it for this price, but I want to stay local, and, you know, I want you to do it in Wales. And I sort of told him how much we were charging, and he's like, oh, but I can get it in India for this price.
Yeah. Well, you don't want it local then, do you?
And I laughed, and I was like, well, we don't have Indian prices.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, but why can't you do it for that price? And it's like, I was like, well, because there's law in this country that we have to pay minimum wages for our staff and so on. And, you know, and we don't want to pay minimum wages either, because
No.
you know, we want to pay a bit higher than that. And the thing is, if you're having to educate customers just to that level, it's
Yeah.
like it becomes extremely hard to then go in other ways. So what we sort of in the end decided, it's like, look, we're going to buy in nice stuff, nice print, and print well, and pay our guys well, and so on and so forth. And then what they give us, you know, there's a whole list of term and condition then to say that,
disclaimer.
we, you know, we'll do our best, but frankly, you know, this is what you get. And what you can do is print with nice products, you know, and make sure your guy, you know, the people to has the right, is, you know, safe. And that's really, in the end, that's what we ended up sort of doing. And we're still, you know, we have pushed the last sort of 5 years, we really have gone for it much more, you know, but we're still doing stuff that people, you know, give us and so on. And that's just a historic thing itself. We can't always, we can't always sort of determine. We got 10 people here. And
yes, you've got quite a chunky team. I love all those animations on the website. It's not animations actually, it's 2 still pictures, isn't it? When you hover over and then they all animate. That was really cool. I did enjoy your website and all that. Can you talk to me about the team and like how you've managed to bring them on and like just like cultivate your team, and any advice on hiring and stuff like that?
Well, hiring itself is as much to do with people wanting the job. So it's not about the money, because
do you hire people with experience, or do you like to train them green? Or
train them. It's been, when I first started printing, there was a lot of printers about, and you can then steal people and so on. You know, they're ready trained, and so. But when I came about, a lot of businesses had gone under. So I started. So 2000, I started my own stuff, and it sort of, I mean, the industry was wiped out. Everybody was doing printing in abroad, and so on. It all had gone abroad, and a lot of printers and a lot of sort of that kind of skill had gone. So when I sort of started, I decided it was a better thing to do is to train people from scratch. We had a lot of artists that was coming out of uni with their print degree, but have no practical skill, none whatsoever. You know, and I'll use an example, and hopefully Jude won't mind, from PrintHaus. So Jude is an amazing person now. But when she first came out of college, you know, she started working for me, and that's how, you know, we all went about with what we've done now with Tom and Jude and PrintHaus and so on. It's sort of, she came in with loads of ideas, loads of sort of enthusiasm, massive amount of knowledge and skills, but not in actual print.
Not in do you mean like not in manufacturing?
The practical skill, there's a difference between knowing how to print artistically, and knowing how to print with consistency and speed. And you know, to set up a job, you can't do it in half a day. You have to do it in 20 minutes. You know, and the more colors you have, the more crucial you need to get it done quickly. And really the technical skill of knowing, understanding what happens in temperature, today's temperature, whether the t-shirt is slightly damp because it's winter. You know, you have to treat it in a slightly different way. It doesn't dry as quick as you expect. And then when you got, you know, small tunnel dryers and certain type flash dryers and tunnel dryers, you have to be a lot more careful in curing. And people don't know that, you know, and if you let them loose without proper understanding the real deep side of how to print well, that's where you're going to get you know, into a crocker with your customer, really, because you know, if you haven't cured something properly, and especially if you're working on high-end stuff.
Yeah, because you do work with some really quite high-end customers, don't you? You were talking earlier about like how you print for people, and then you know they're reselling it, and you know what price they're reselling it for. So that's why it was important, because I saw you printed for like Doomsday and like loads of other people, but they're like a local Welsh brand, aren't they? So like that's quite a good example.
Well, we used to print for them, but we don't.
Yeah, I feel like they've brought it in-house, haven't they?
Yes. Yeah, they do their own now, and we at first train a lot of people, and we had an open house policy, really, that we didn't mind anyone coming in. We had a lot of stick for that, because so about 12 years ago we started PrintHaus, and that was because a lot of people come out of uni not knowing how to technically print, and we felt that people need to know how to do things well, and that it would help the industry with more printers, practical printers about, that understand, that can design and know about print. And it so both helps. And I think really to take the snobbery out of I'm a designer, you know, printers are printers. They're you know, these lowly people that do my printing for me. And they don't understand how much knowledge we have and how much education we've had up to that point as well. You know, we're all, you know, people are with masters and you know, doctorate in all that, but they somehow, because we think we go down the printing route, that somehow we're not the same as designers. And that was myself. I left uni not knowing how to print, and I came out with a, you know, service pattern qualification, and I was like, I don't have a clue about how to do the printing of it. So I, you know, is one of your how I got into it myself, is that I offered to work for my old company for free, because they helped me with my final year project. And I said, look, you know, for that, I'll work for you for a few months, knowing I'll get experience, and they get a free person on that. So I did, and I stayed with them for about 3 months, learned as much as I could, and grand idea to go traveling. So I got to America, stuck there, and I have family in America, in California, and my auntie, being Vietnamese, I'm half Vietnamese, that wanted to marry me off.
So, when you were on holiday and she wanted to marry you off.
While I was there, Geez, and she was like, you know, I was 21, 22 at the time, and she's like, why am I not married?
Were you told to dress nice for a particular dinner? And then...
Weirdly, yes. She cut my hair and told me to turn up somewhere.
Oh God.
And I was like, this is bizarre. And she just introduced me to this girl and said, you're marrying her. And this is what, you know, Vietnamese custom is. You know, your auntie finding your wife, and that's it. So I made my excuses and left, and rang my mum up and said, I'm coming home. That was it.
I'm never cutting my hair again.
Well, that was it. A week later, I was home living with her, you know, and it was, I went to my old company again to say, I'm back in the country, you know, to have a position that I need a job. They said no. So I moved to London, and I got myself a car delivery person in London. So posh car delivery.
Oh, you were a car courier person. Okay, I understand. Yeah.
Well, it's sort of, I don't know what it was. It was I didn't really start, so I got the job. So I went for an interview to deliver posh cars to people in London.
That's nerve-wracking. That's scary, isn't it? That must be the most scary job. Like,
well, I didn't actually do it.
yeah, but
I got
even
the
going
job.
for it, I don't think I'd
And
even go
then,
for that one.
and then, well, I was trying to get any job really.
Yeah.
It didn't really matter. And then literally that 2 days later, before I started, the company from here rang me up and said, "Oh, we got a position for you. Do you want it?" And I said, "Look, I've got a job, but I need to know if I come back, it's a permanent job that you're going to give."
Nice. Yes, you could use it as a bargaining chip, maybe.
And that was it. So I came back and basically, didn't look back then. So and that's how I ended up staying within printing then. So
do you think that's like partly because you did offer your services for free for 3 months? And do you think that's what like the younger generation is willing to do to get that work?
I think really the only way they can do it, because you come out of college with no practical skill and nobody wants you.
Yeah.
No, I've sat in many interviews that I could see the person, now it's worse. When I came out with very little debt, if you come out with massive amount of debt and college is telling you constantly that you can demand whatever you want when you leave college, and then you're sitting there telling them that, they can only, I'm only willing to pay 15, 16,000 pound minimum wage at the time. You see the face drop.
Yeah.
Because practically they're no good to us, and that's why then again part of that we set up the PrintHaus as well, so to allow that intermediate period, so they can learn that practical skill with people like ourselves. We gave it all for free, so it's a non-profit organization where we would, if we were there and all of us.
So I think I've missed a bit about the PrintHaus. Is it like a open access studio where you get taught, or what's the kind of setup? Right.
It's a bit different now. So originally it was studios. So the studio created the finance to keep the place. So 6,000 square feet, 3,000 of it is to have a studios. And so what going back a little bit, what it was, we were getting a lot of students coming out of uni, final year, finishing college as well, wanting to come into our place to learn about printing, which we were doing for a while. We had schools in here, we had students, so, throughout all the years really. And we had a lot of that kind of thing. But, when you have people coming into a commercial printing, it was extremely hard to control it, and when I found out as well that insurance wise it was a nightmare. You have all these kids and adults and all sorts of things at different time coming in, and I just felt it was too much of a risk really. And so we then sort of decided, okay, I think we need a different entity to allow people to come in, and when it's in there, it's only manual, so no machine that runs on their own because mangle people up and things like that. And you don't need high level of training for that kind of thing. So we then decided, okay, and that did go down the route of purely sort of environmental and so on, and because it was manual, we could start it with only ethical stuff, and product we use of all ethicals and so on, and that could be like that. And then people come in, they would do all that. So we spent a long time training people here, and then as I said about other printers coming in. So prior to them being other printers, they came to us and wanted to know everything. We gave it all out. I was even curious on your end when I was saw your video, what type of machinery you were using to do the film work and to do your plotting and things like that. It's sort of and that type of thing. We take a long time to figure out this is a machine to buy. This works well. Someone else comes along, see that. 5 minutes later they can buy it. They don't know you know, anything else about anything else. They just know that that's what that person used. Great, it works.
Yeah. I see how the recommendations work, but it's also like I get asked what that big printer is for film positives, like probably 2 or 3 times a week, and I'm like, it's an Epson T7200, yeah, but have fun maintaining that for what you need. It's not what you need. I don't know why you want it, because unless you're outputting film for massive, huge scale artists, it's not a thing that I'll freely give it away because they can run with it if they want.
Well, the problem is the problem for us, not so much, I suppose, for yourself, is you do a lot of educational stuff, and you are happy for people to learn. But the problem for us is when they open a few miles down the road and start telling customers that you know, we do all this, and it's hard to. It's when word of mouth in how you work, and when you're deciding how do you make yourself different from someone else that have just, you've taught, taken everything that you have machinery wise and just copied it, you know. How do you make yourself different after that? And I suppose for a while we were a little pissed off with it,
right?
Yeah, but we realized then, okay, it's a challenge, really. It's nothing, it's no different to what we've been doing up to now, teaching people how to print. And, you know, other printers ringing up saying, why are you doing this? Why are you showing them how to print properly and so on? And they say, well, the more of us, the better. The more people know about how to print well,
we'll rise each other up, surely.
Yeah, it's sort of, I want a printer down the road to do a really bloody good job. Not to do a really shit job, and then they come back to us saying, you know, oh, I don't want that, and that, because they did it, and we're like, and we have to spend half our time explaining we don't do that.
Yeah, because they'll just come and say, oh, does yours crack as well? And you're like, no, because I cured it. And then you've got to, like, sometimes you've got to, I know what you mean. Is that where you kind of stayed in your lane with screen printing, and it doesn't seem that you've ever deviated off it, like, because you said you left the other stuff to the other guy, like your old
we tried it, and then every so often, you know, you have to look at it and maybe test it out and try it out and so on. And you know, we had I think I must have bought one of the first 2 Epson printers when he first came out, direct to garment. You know, they did a survey, I can't think of the word. They did a thing on me on that as well, or, you know, where Epson came down and, you know, did a whole sort of project on that, and it was wonderful. It was a great machine, did exactly what it did, and it was probably one of the best sort of cheap machine out there to buy. But commercially, it was just didn't work, because when you put a person on it, which when you pay someone, you know, 18 to 20,000 pounds to print, and they can only print 12 shirts an hour, it you know, you have to charge so much for it. If you're working if you buy it and it's a table size, you can have it at the back of your house, you know, which someone's converted into an office for themselves, and dish out a whole bunch of prints on
demand. Yeah, on demand. Doesn't matter what the image is, you can keep swapping it, I'm assuming. Yeah,
and it's fantastic. So in that way, it works extremely well if you are a small time printer and that's all you have. And if you want to make, you know, a few quid for yourself every day, then it's fantastic, you know. Or you batch it up and make a whole load one day and then do another job. It is fantastic, but it doesn't work in a commercial environment itself. You know, you need to print at speed and so on. And it's sort of, so we tried it for a couple of years. You know, we didn't make any money, but we didn't lose very much, and so we just passed it on then. And so we're trying different things, but at some point then we really stuck to screen printing, and really stuck with ethical.
Yeah, because you've got every point covered with all your printing methods, because you are doing discharge, you are doing water-based, you are doing plus. So like, how are you managing to like put time aside to do all that research with like things like discharge, or are you kind of like seeing what the job is? I know you've been in the industry a long time, so this seems like a silly question, but or are you like reacting to jobs, like one comes in and it will look really good on discharge with a certain shirt, and then you're kind of experimenting to get it right when on the job, like as the job comes in, because the materials and shirts and these dyes are changing all the time, aren't they? So, or do you already have it nailed, or I don't know?
Yeah, no, it's when I was printing, yes, it was very much of trial with customers' jobs, really. And it does go wrong, and it goes wrong with quite a big expense that we have to, pay. We again, we've already decided that a long time ago that if it's our fault, it's our fault. We just have to correct it. It's money. That's it. It can be expensive, but there's no point in arguing with customers and things like that. We put our hands up to it, and there's no. It's sort of our thing with it is when we experiment with different inks and with different things, we know certain product work well, and the Continental and Stella worked brilliantly because they. So there's a bit of a weird thing, because with more environmental dyes and so on and product, it's more unstable. So you get a different result, but it does a better job for some reason.
Do you mean like it's more consistent, like you know what you're going to get, because then they're going to be treating the garment the same every time, but like you might not get like a pure white with discharge or something? Or like
yeah, you have to change people's attitude toward it. And so with natural product, we tell them that, if you're printing with natural dyes, if you're printing with less chemical-based products and so on, it won't do as brilliant of a job. Chemical product works extremely well.
Yeah.
High chemical sort of general t-shirts and so on has dyes in it that are extremely stable. So when you're trying to put dye on it or discharge in it, it just won't take. It doesn't take so well, because obviously what you're printing on is this high stable stuff that then you're trying to bleach and you're trying to put water base and so on, and it begins to fight. So when you're using more natural product with a natural garment as well, they tend to complement each other a bit more.
Right.
But the difference is you people's design has to be slightly different. You have to design it in to it. You can't expect a print with natural or more ethical inks and with a shirt that is, again, organic and so on, to be this brilliant white print.
Yeah.
It isn't going to be, because everything you're doing is sort of wear sort of better, and it fades more, and it's sort of it will break down quicker.
Yeah, it's part of the shirt, isn't it?
It's part of the design, part of the shirt. So you have to then educate customers as well on that. Is that if you're using all natural product, it's designed to break down over time, so it won't last as long. But the feel of the shirt is fantastic. It's nice to wear, and everything about it is much better, including the people that make it. You're not buying the product because it's nice on you. You're buying the product because people that made it have been paid a decent wage for it as well. So it's the whole thing. If you're going down this route, you have to think of the whole thing, not just because you're buying ethical stuff. It is everything that goes down the line.
That's why I think like I'm trying to like think of the words to describe the fact that everyone's can say environmentally friendly and stuff, and then surely the environment, that surely it should be tagged on, or just as important, the fact that it was produced with ethical labor. So if you're trying to like describe a shirt, you have to say like ethical and environmental. But I wish there was like a word for both, which actually meant that they gave a crap. It's like the huge manufacturers having one organic cotton shirt amongst 90% bullshit shirts. None of them are ethical, but they're greenwashing it so much that it looks like that's them trying. I don't know. Yeah, just maybe just calling it ethical.
That was partly why we didn't want to go that, do that ourselves. That we didn't want to be green and be half-assed about it. It's and unfortunately there's a lot of people out there that are doing that, and this is one of the things, I suppose, if you sign up for some of the schemes itself with all the the different ethical labels, it sort of, Soil Station is one of the best good ones that once you sign up, they do vet you, they come around and check you out and things like that. But the thing is, I've heard stories of people swapping inks around,
Of when they come in.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I saw on your website as well is about you talking about the chemicals and like containing them. Is that to do with like how you're washing your screens and things, like how you're managing to contain it?
Yeah, I totally recommend for any small printers. It costs a lot to buy, and I understand it costs even more now to buy.
Right.
So, but it's a brilliant machinery for small printers, because I know there's quite a few R&D companies now that are trying to design small units of like of a booth size, slightly bigger than the screens itself you're working with, and it's a self-contained washout unit that can do the washout. You can buy lots of modular sizes that you can use. You can have it for different part of your screen cleaning and washout and so on. And those are massively time-saving devices that that you can just set up. So if you're standing there washing your screens out, it takes 3 minutes. Well, 3 minutes of a machine doing it. One, health and safety is fantastic because there is no worry on it. It's all self-contained. The water is contained in the sort of machine itself. It's like I suppose it's like a wardrobe size, a small wardrobe size.
What brand is it that you're specifically talking about? Because you cut out, but
I actually have a the machine I have is actually an M&R.
Yeah.
But it was built by a guy in Liverpool.
Oh, right.
Which was an R&D job that he was doing for me. So he was testing the machinery out.
You've got custom bespoke scenario. Nice.
So he made it testing. There's 2 companies that he tested on before it was then sold or made for M&R itself, and they're selling it, so it goes to America and it comes back to this country again. So it's apparently economical to do that. So but there is kit packs now. Everybody knows Kit Pack itself on that. They are now looking at building a very small machine that does exactly that. But so they're sort of doing modular ones that you can buy for different component of what you need. And obviously they're not a cheap company to buy from, but they are good and they're local, they're in the UK. And it's sort of, they've been in here to servicing one of my machines, and I was talking to the engineer, and they're now building one now to test out. So I then talked to them about, so I talked to the main man at Kit Packs itself to ask him about filtration system, where you filter out the water that you discharge from your machines and so on. So what we have here is a washout booth from M&R, and a inline screen cleaning machine.
Yeah, they look really cool.
3 different tubes on there. So, and it's it. You literally put screens in one end, it pops out the other end.
That's the dream.
Clean. But we got it because, not because the fact we were trying to do our screens quicker, is because we had a poor guy, which is still with us now, you know, in the screen room, in an area, you know, that's about a bedroom size, cleaning a screen all day. You know, and he was only cleaning 40 screens a day.
Right.
But he would be there all day, every day.
It's like his quality of life, and you're like part of the team, but you're like,
he
he's got the
it.
worst job. Yeah. He
loved it. You know, summer was great because it was, you know, he was always in water and it's always cool. But, you know, and that's it, you have to find the right person that loves the job. Otherwise, it's a nightmare, isn't it? So, but he loved it and he was fine with it. But it meant that, you know, you couldn't pay very much. And you know, trying to bring his wages up is hard, because if you can only only clean 40 screens a day, no matter what happens, you know, your finance is a bit stuck with that. So and we had health and safety and all that, you know, trying to work out how to make things safe for everybody. You know, so you have all the water molecule going everywhere. You got splashes of water going everywhere. He's applying lots of chemicals on it. That's going everywhere. You know, and as screen printers, we know what it's like to clean a screen. It's a horrible job when you're trying to do bulk of them, and especially when you got printers that haven't scraped out the ink properly. You know, and it's all over the screen, you know, all over the frame, and you're there having to try to clean it down and things. So you're a mess, you know, if you're trying to clean that many screens a day. So we thought the only way we can make it safe for him and for him to do more is invest in a cleaning machine, and that's where we went. It was, at the time, was expensive, but you know, we
paid for itself now, do you reckon?
Well, exactly. The thing is, you know, when you get a machine in that can do 120, 150 an hour, or sorry, a day, sorry.
That's holy shit, what is this thing?
It's sort of a day.
Yeah.
You know, and it means that there's no one there doing it. It's machines doing it. You just pop it in one end and it comes out the end ready for you. You know, so if you're able to upscale to 150, you can tweak the timing and all that, and then it would do 150 for you quite happily, and you still get consistency of result. You know, and this is it. It's sort of if you have a stubborn sort of batch of screens, or you have an emotion that you haven't used before, and it's, you know, not quite clean enough, you just strengthen your chemicals. But the beauty of it all, it stays in the booth. It's all self-contained. The water stays in there, the chemical stays in there. You have a little bit drip off, but it's minimal. You know, so we found that. So we had 3 people working in that department. So that it was a person shooting, cleaning, and we then had shooting, cleaning, and the other person did something else. Tape
removal and ink. I don't know. Excess tape removal.
Well, there was 2 people actually doing the shooting and
right.
the shooting and preparation work all at the same time. And so there was 2 people doing all the prep work for shooting, and 1 person cleaning. Right. So, but the 2 girls itself, one of the girls got a job in London, so she went, and the other girl was pregnant, so she went on maternity. So with that, we knew that we would lose her for at least a year anyway. So at that time, I thought, okay, we'll buy this machine in. It means that Christian can do it all by himself. You know, hoping, and he thrived in it. You know, he loved it because it meant that he became extremely skilled. It meant that so it was after the year was over, one of the girls didn't come back, so
Right.
that we then decided, okay, we won't try to, we had obviously part-time people coming in to cover some of it and so on, but as time went on, he got stronger and stronger, and he then were able to do everybody's work within that department.
Brilliant.
So he now shoots, clean and prep all the screens for 4 printers.
Wow, that's incredible.
Which meant then suddenly we realized that he's actually, he should be paid equal to everybody else, really, because he's doing such a good job, and it's a high-end job as well, which means that he should be on the same wage as everybody else.
Yeah, because that has a massive impact as it the screen travels through the studio. And
well, there's a choice, you either buy yourself a new printing auto or manual, to produce more, or you work out your bottlenecks that you can produce more without, so printing more necessary doesn't necessarily mean that you just buy a machine that prints more.
Yes, there's no point in being more efficient if you're not more effective.
No, and that's it. If you buy more printing machines, and you have one person going around a circle doing everything all the time and no break at all, then that's pointless as well. So we then realize really quickly within all that being efficient can only get to a certain point, but buying in automation became a lot more. You were able to upskill everybody. They are able to be paid a lot more, and things like that.
Have you got like all the DTS, and have you got all the toys basically? Have you got direct to screen, or how do you do that?
No, we experiment with direct to screen. We experiment with all the DGG stuff and things like that. And to be fair, we just we like the traditional side of it. We like the graph of doing certain things and so on. We're now debating about buying in a new film printer now, and obviously we're researching on that. The HP apparently is a good one to go for.
Cool.
So we're looking at all that, and I think with film it gives us flexibility in different ways. We have 2 MHM autos,
right,
and they are E-types, and they will only print to a certain sort of size. But over the years, we have managed to tweak it so that it will print sort of 70 by 70 kind of.
How are you doing that? You're just like getting custom pallets made or something? Spreading them out, basically.
We basically, so we realized that, well, the length of printing, so the stroke going from front to back all the way around, how we do our printing now, it obviously that itself has a limit. Yeah. But width-wise, there isn't.
Yeah, whacking the bigger squeegee on there.
You can put as much squeegee as you want. You can't do it manually because you don't have the strength to put that level of pressure onto a screen, and your palette itself to print with. But on the machine, you can. Yeah. And that was one of the things why I went. I mean, we still love hand printing and so on, and that's one of my favorite jobs, really. I was up there for 3 months last year printing, and that was all sort of tea towels, local, all the local tea towels and things that we were doing, and I loved it because I love that sort of time spent printing, because because you do it for such a long time, you don't think anymore about it.
It's literally because I know what you mean.
It's all muscle memory, and it means that my head is somewhere else. And Tom hates me going upstairs printing because I come down with lots of different ideas then, because I'm able to think.
Yeah, you're not stuck in an office maybe making.
No, and I find that sitting behind an account system or film and things like that, you have to concentrate a lot more and so on. But printing, because it's all muscle memory, I just print, and everything is done by the feeling of how to print. So, you know, your mind is wandering off somewhere else, and you know, I come down and sort of say to Tom, then it's like, you know, I want this and this sorted, and
that's something that actually I just wanted to really quickly ask you about, is if you're teaching people and you know that they're going to be on an auto, do you teach them manually so they know what they're doing in terms of like why they're putting pressure on, and like, do you teach them manually, or do you just push like them to learn how to do it on the automatic first?
We do both. It's basically printing is an ability that someone has or haven't. You can see it in someone, and you don't force it on someone, because if they don't seem to have a sense for it, there's no point doing it. So what we do is manual is extremely hard to teach someone. It takes a long time for them to do it well. And you know, for me, because I've been printing for such a long time, I sort of teach them how to stand, how to hold the squeegee without getting tired. We work to around 300 to 500 print in a day on manual. On auto, we work to, the auto will go up to 700 an hour.
Wow, that's incredible, isn't it?
But we work to for one person to be on a machine, which because of COVID, it's an amazing thing with COVID, where it has caused a massive problem, but also by things. You're frozen there. So by doing different things with COVID, it's now made us realize a whole load of different things you can do, you know, and change our work pattern itself. So we used to have 2 people on the machine, and obviously when you then have to have the distancing side of it, we then decided that you have 1 person on per machine, which meant there was about a 3-meter gap between everybody. At the end of the dry as well, so you know they're sort of miles away from everybody else. And you know, you have to think about how to kill the virus as well. And we realize, well, when someone's handling it on one end, it goes through a massive pizza oven. It's sort of at 150 odd degrees. Well, whatever's in it is dead.
Sure. Yeah, hopefully this bloody bugger that keeps mutating. Yeah, so
you know, so you do all that, and it made us realize that okay, you know, we can teach, but going the other way, going on to the manual from auto, you can, because the machine can be set in every way possible. You put an experienced machine person on it, they set it all up, and then you can put a reasonable novice person to print. And it's about trying to make sure that everybody down the line notice the mistake or the problem that it may arise as it's printing. So and just spotting the issues, and that's it. And then obviously once you teach them how to spot the issues, and then you just pull someone over that knows what they're doing to correct it, and that's it. On the manual, it's a bit different. You have to spend, so you know, I tell people that you need to spend at least 6 months on it, and it would take you about 3 years to become good at it, and then it would take, after that,
you're just always getting better, hopefully.
But and after that, it's about technique and about how to do something. And so I teach them, you know, the stance, how to stand properly so you don't get tired, how to hold squeegees and how to handle them so you don't get tired, you know. And if you really want good stomach muscles, you do it slightly wrong. So you use a lot of your stomach muscles, you know, and it's so how you work on the auto and how you work on the manual is very different. And you know, you can become extremely fit on the manual, which is brilliant, you know. And I don't think I exercise at all for years.
Well, you're sweating like, profuse sweating, and you're absolutely knackered. But there's nothing like that though, about having like a whole day on there, and you've really like grafted and you've produced something that you're really proud of. I think you still get like pride from the auto, but I don't think it's the same. And I don't think,
Well,
it's just like,
yeah, the auto's slightly different in the sense that if you're trying to set up an 8-color job on the auto and you get it done within 20 minutes and it's bang on first time, it's a fantastic feeling.
Yeah, different challenges.
Yeah, on the manual, if people are working, you've got quite a good machine, and and that was one of the things you asked earlier about. I inherited a whole bunch of machines that was really hard work, and you don't recommend it, but you have to use a hammer to knock it into place and things like that.
Right. Yeah.
So and as soon as I could afford it, I bought myself a decent manual. Which we still have now after 20 years. We're still
Which one have you still got for 20 years?
It's the it's the Polish one, Anatol.
Right. Yeah.
Anatol. It's a copy of the M&Rs, because all the engineer that was building the M&R manuals went to Poland and decided to make their own, and it's extremely strong. So, and that's what we still have, and we still got it now. We just had kit packs in to do a service on it as a reset, they call it. So it costs a fortune, but it's always worth, and I would always recommend looking after your machine well that way, and then every once in a blue moon, get someone that knows what they're doing to strip it apart and put it back together again. Even if you know what you're doing, give it somebody else and let them do it.
Because you might not have realised how it's deteriorated until you bring it back.
You don't, because you work with it all day in, day out, and you compensate for what's wrong with it, and then you just, that's it. And then, suddenly you don't notice anymore. And that's what's the same thing with really shitty machines. You compensate so much of it, and that's one of the things we learned from when you're teaching, because if you're teaching someone on a bad machine, you can't teach properly because you have to knock that in slightly, or you have to do it in a certain way, and you're on a certain technique, hold this and print with that, and you can't do that. It's very hard for someone to learn. So you just don't. You have to buy machines in the end. Once you put a screen in, it prints where it's supposed to, and that's it.
Oh, that's really it's really, really good talking to you, because you've just got like it seems like you've got it all the like components like sorted together that we're still like all trying to like struggle to piece together while maintaining like a business. But it's a good model to look up to, because you've got a lot of stuff in place. I'll definitely look into those accreditations to see if any of them are viable options on a really small scale. And
going back to the Green Promise one, I mean, the Welsh government had decided of their own sort of they felt there was a lacking of government-backed stuff. And the Welsh Assembly decided that okay, how do we help local businesses to accredit them for what they're doing, and this is it. And it was a good idea, and it's started now, since the beginning of the year itself, that they would check what you do and then give you the Green Promise certification logo that you can put up.
I thought it was you guys just putting up your own green environmental promise. I didn't realise really that it was like
we are doing that. We've done that for years. It's just only now being recognised for it.
Right. Okay. Yes.
No, we've been at it for years. It's just that
It's got a logo.
There isn't anything around that government turns around and say, oh, that's a nice company to say, yeah, we approve of them. There's loads of other stuff, that you can credit yourself for in how to run productively and how to make sure that all your paperwork is right. And you know, and the council asked you to make sure that you got all the ISO, you know, certification things, which cost thousands of pounds, and no small business can afford it, you know. And the Welsh government comes along and say, you know, oh, we can do this for free for you, you know, we'll check you out, and if you fall in within all the standards that we're asking for, we'll give you a logo to say
Brilliant.
you are accredited.
And also just telling you what those standards are in the first place, so you're not like scrambling around trying to piece together.
Well, it's also
interpretation.
not something that you have to get in place and you have to do and things either. It's about what you're planning, what you're and they want you to be thinking about it and planning it. So you don't necessarily have to be even there with all the material and all the things, you know, spent already. And for them, the whole accreditation is about you making sure that you have things in place for it. You know, that you are planning that route, you are going down that route, and they give you time to get there. You know, so as long as you're trying and doing it, you know, piece by piece, they understand that you don't have to, you can't have it on. And that's the difference with solidization. You have to have all that in place before they will give you the certificate. To get there can cost you thousands of pounds to even get them there. You know, and then it's not for sure that they'll come in and agree with everything you're doing.
I bet you're laughing now with your solar panels, with the energy prices going up. You're like, boiling kettles of tea willy-nilly and just
do you know what? I've never understood that people invest in equipment and don't think about their building. I'm lucky that I was able to buy ours, but as soon as I could, that was one of my first investment is solar panels and, you know, so water containing stuff and, you know, water capturing system and rainwater harvesting and all that. You need to think of all that because it's the cost of it now. Prior to all this, you know, the cost wasn't. You can budget it. It goes within all your work and things like that. It's, you know, our electric bill has trebled in the last few months. You know, and it's going to impact everybody badly.
Yes.
You know? And how we manage our costs itself is either going to come out of our personal profit, because that's the bottom line cost here, or we have to bring up prices. And how businesses are not thinking of it prior to this, not even now, because now it's a bit late. You know, if your water, gas, electric is all going up by treble, you know, for us it's gone from £6,000 to £15,000, £16,000 a year now. And it's a mad amount. You know, we brought our prices up by about 28% last year, and oh god, it was a nightmare. You know, we lost customers. You know, people were saying that we were just being greedy and all that kind of thing. And I pointed out that we got the minimum wages going up to a point where when you have somebody been with you for X amount of years, you can't have them close to minimum wage. When somebody comes in with no experience, that you're paying, you know, the minimum wage or above minimum wage is what we always try to do. It is as a training wage, and then you got everybody else who's been with you for, you know, a few years. They can't be close to that. You know, they can't be 50 pence or a pound more. It's not possible. So there's a couple of things we looked at then. It's sort of, you know, and we've had our solar panels for years now, which meant that we could offset. We don't like to use offsetting, but, you know, you can do it for, you know, properly itself by saying that, yes, okay, if you want to offset your, you know, 50% of your production to this, so we can actually become carbon neutral. You know, all our water, we saved, it's all the containing side of cleaning, it meant that our water bill went to a quarter
Wow,
of
that's
our
incredible.
cost, you know, because you're not no longer discharging all the water out.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we're now thinking, okay, how do we make that water even better? You know, you can never take out the chemicals, but the fact you can take out all the molecule, the plastic, or you know, any lint that's in the ink and in the that you scrape away and so on. You know, so all that itself, that we then looked at how to dispose of it. So we got companies in to take all our high particle.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, the high particle stuff away. So that then gets processed. Our rags that we use to wipe up our stuff, what we do with that. So that goes into a certain pile and so on. So we've really thought of how disposable stuff is as important as it is to make sure that we produce everything, you know, or buy in everything, ecologically as well. So it's again this holistic side, including trying to get people to work better, you know, to work sort of have a nice environment for them to work, because that means that they will do a better job of it as well.
And it all just seems to be, from what you're saying, just funnels back into not just being, you don't have to do it just from an environmental or moral standpoint, or like just wanting to pay your people right. All those things combined seem to feed back into the business and make you more profitable and self-sustaining anyway. Like the environmental choices that you made are now paying off. So
well, my biggest, you know, change that I so created for myself and for the guys here is like, you know, what I wanted for myself is what I would achieve for everybody else here as well, because there's no point, you know, me so wandering off having a nice life when really, you know, everybody else is struggling to run the business for me and things like that. And I didn't want that. You know, I've never been, I came from printing. I came from, my first job was in the company I worked for, was screen cleaning. And I was there for a number of years doing it, you know, and I knew what it was like to be the lowest pay person within the business and doing the most shittiest job that no one really, you know, care about you. And so as time went on, you know, I knew that I didn't want designers to prance about to say I'm a designer, so therefore, you know, do what I ask and I don't care about you printing it. And so when we employ people, we bring people in as, you know, they come in to interview for a designer job, and we would put them on the floor to sweep the floor for 2 weeks, because I just want to know what their attitude is like.
It sounds like a Mr. Miyagi type situation. They're like, what am I doing? I want to be on Adobe.
But you know, but this is it.
It is useful. I understand why you're doing it, but yeah.
It is, because you need to get the attitude out. You know, you can't have, because when you got a bunch of people working together, they have to work together well and respect each other. You know, it's not I'm better than you or that I'm paid more than you. And we now, over the years, we've now balanced everybody's wages out so that, you know, no matter who you are, you need to be on a kind of a similar wage, and you all need to have a good sort of living standard to go home with. And you know, and we then changed. So my daughter came along 5 years ago. A year before that, or you know, 9 months before that, when we knew, I'd said to Tom that, you know, I need to achieve this by the time she was born, and you know, I need to go home. I was working all hours, you know, with my first son, who was basically took most of the brunt of me not being at home. Right. You know, you get home at 9 o'clock at night, and he's at the top of the stairs, you know, a 2-3-year-old, so turn around saying, you know, I don't want to go to bed yet because
because you're excited for you now. Oh yeah.
You know, and then instead, and that killed me. And And when my daughter came along, or we knew we were having a daughter, then I said to the guys here, I need to get home. I need to leave here, and I don't want to be picking up the mistakes, the problems, and dealing with customers because you guys, have done your bit and you've gone home. I don't want to be doing that. The problem needs to be all of us. It has to be done by all of us. So we put a few things in place to say that anything that goes wrong that is not the customer's fault, we need to correct. If it's our fault, we need to correct it.
Yeah, more accountability.
Yeah, and the fact is then, everybody goes home at 4, or no one goes home at 4.
Nice.
Yeah, and amazingly, where a printer would take 2 hours having to finish off a job because it's gone wrong that day.
Yeah.
Suddenly, when everybody stayed, the job was done in half an hour.
Yeah, I was just watching it.
Well, this is it. It's so amazingly all that.
That's a really good tactic. That's a really good tactic, because now everyone's talking about this 4-day work week, and that's kind of across the whole week. You've kind of implemented your own version of that, haven't you? You're kind of saying, yeah, people go home, and you get home to see your kids and put them to bed. So
well, that's it. It's not just me trying to get home. It's the fact that all of us get home. So, so years ago we started changing our time. Where we were doing 40 hours with 20 hours over. So we were hitting probably 50-hour week with another 20 hours on top as overtime. And we didn't think anything of it. That went on for years, kind of like, oh yeah, it is normal, and when I first started, I would be, where you have the night owl customers coming in at 11 o'clock at night, and we'd be up to, having a beer. It was just fantastic, loved it. But when it was me and just Tom, it's like, you have a beer, crack open the beer, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, you're still talking about printing and someone's job, and then you're back in at 6 in the morning printing and so on. It was great when you're single and you stay single that way.
Yeah.
You're never going to meet anyone.
That's going to keep you single. At least you've got your beer and your Squeegee.
And you meet people, but they don't hang around long.
That's funny.
And then but then it's either becomes your total lifestyle, that is all you do, or you need a life outside it. And I one of the comment that friends, a printer friend of mine said, is like, you love it for now, but after 20 years and you're at it all this time, you're gonna hate it.
You might need an escape route.
So you have to balance yourself in that. You need to turn around and say, it's sort of, you love your job, but you need to stop and do something else as well. And that's where we started introducing the sort of time limit and so on. So we went from those kind of hours down to 40 hours, down to 37.5 hours. And we found that our production didn't change.
That's a sweet spot.
Yeah, the production didn't change. And now we've gone down to 35 hours, with people going home. So we can do now 4 days. We're close to that point of sort of 7-hour day, and you go home at 4. And the only reason you stay late is that something's gone wrong, you can't help it, or that well, that's it really. Something's gone wrong, you have to stay and do it. But everybody stays and do it. It means it's done really quickly. And that was one of the things we implemented. And if they did stay late, right, we monitored for about 2 years who did what and why did they stay late. And we would question it. And that brought up a lot of sort of practical solution within it as well, that we understood why they were staying late. Partly, some people don't want to go home because they're not having a great life at home.
Right.
And then that became a mindful thing as well. Then you realize that, okay, people's lives at home are not always great, so therefore that's why they're staying late. It's not about work. It's not
That's
then,
incredible. Yeah.
yeah,
You
and
can't even
you
imagine
begin
that as a.
to look at their state of mind as well, and it helps when you're there to listen to, because you don't give advice because you can't. You listen to it, and just by doing that, changing people's understanding of their lifestyle as well, that it really helps. So we then put in that thing that you can't stay, there is no overtime, and if you do overtime, we want to know why.
Right.
Yeah. And if they're having to stay late all the time because the job keeps going wrong, it's retraining. They haven't done their job well enough to your standard, so therefore you need to look at how do you train them to do that job better.
Yeah.
And if all that is done and they're still not going home, then there's something else going on. And working through that does take time, but it does make people a lot happier, that you feel that you're on top of it, you're asking questions. COVID, vaccine, we didn't realize there was people here that had issue with vaccine, and you're asking, so you have to pull people aside to ask them why, but it's not prying, it's just simply
facts. It's so tricky, like all these like nuances and stuff. I think that's all we've got time for this particular podcast, but I feel like we could do another one in a few months, because you're just like a well of knowledge.
I've still got loads of stuff here.
I know. I'll just have to get you on again, or like come to a shop tour when all the COVID's cleared up or something like that. That would be amazing.
It's been nice, actually. I didn't know what to expect, but it's been really nice to talk to somebody that has a massive interest in the whole thing as well, and hopefully people like some of the things that we've been talking about.
I think definitely. And then what I found is that previous podcast, like previous shop owners and stuff, they're all like mingling now, because they're like, oh, I didn't know you were down the road, or oh, you said that thing and I relate to that. So they're all like making little friendship groups, like cross-pollinating. So it's really interesting, actually.
I think one of the main things, it's one of your last question here on the what advice you can give to people, is really learn to say no.
Yes. No. That's one of mine, but I always sound really harsh. But yeah, just learn to say no.
It's sort of, stick to what you are happy to do, and tell a customer that no, if you want to use me, you're going to do it this way, and that's it. And I think that does help for your own mind as well, really, and
stop being a people pleaser.
Well, people always push it, no matter what happens. People, if you give, they want more, and it's very rare that they don't. And you just learn to, go home and see people that you love, spend time with them. And as much as you love what you do, don't stay and do it. Put it down and go home.
Perfect. That's such a good way to end. Just say no and
and go home and enjoy your what's around you. And COVID has helped in that. The ones that have benefited has sort of come out of it, hopefully, a lot better, understanding that you see your environment, you go out for walks more, you spend more time with family, and a lot of people have died from this, and a lot of people are still in quite sort of shock and mourning about everything. But on the good side, hopefully our work-life balance at home, and doing these kind of podcasts, I've done loads of Zoom calls now on different things, gone down into allotment and growing things now, which I don't think I've kept plant alive for more than.
There's one. You got one behind you. There's one.
we got yeah.
Oh, we do.
Tom insisted that we had to change our office to have more plants here, and so we have now. And at home, we got billions of plants, but it's sort of so I was never able to keep a plant alive for more than a few weeks. And now suddenly, you've got loads
You're
of
a
it.
gardener, no, you're a farmer.
Well, that's it. And you just learn to live, to have a life as well. And, and it is, we do need to have a work that you enjoy and a balance of life after that as well.
Yeah.
And, and that keeps you going for a lot longer.
Yeah. Make sure you don't burn out. Oh, that's awesome.
Well,
thank you so much, Rob.
No, thank you for that. So thank you for.
And I've already got your awesome photo with your kid
son
as well. Yeah.
My son is, he's lovely. So
he's definitely a little doppelganger of you, though, isn't he? It's like literally like smaller and bigger version. It's quite funny. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. He asked me about printing, and he loves, because obviously we're into the arts and so on, and he does a lot of painting and printing, and he, one of his favorite is I set up a carousel for him. So he does his own printing and things of that as well. So
nice.
He does all that, and he asked about ever coming into the business, and I was like, no, don't. Try to find your own thing, and I'm more than happy to help him out, and he come in and do a bit of work for me and things like that. But it's one of those things that if he does, he does. But if he doesn't, he's on his own way in life, really. So and I introduced loads of printing with loads of the kids now. And
so you've all got that skill.
And the kids, the kids love it, and it's just trying to get people to understand that t-shirt and garments isn't something that you wear. It's a piece of art that someone has designed and put on. That and no one really understands it. They just wear it, and it's a piece of garment. But
it's an expression. It can be.
People put a lot of work into it, and and to pay a decent amount for it. Because a lot of people design stuff that ends up selling it for pennies, and really you can't charge what it's worth. The time people put in, but people want to buy at the same price as you would buy from the supermarket, and it's like, well, it doesn't work that way.
Well, as you said there, I think they're realizing, and just got to keep doing what you're saying, and just keep educating the customers, and just keep elevating ourselves and our services and what we're producing as much as possible. That's what I got from what you said. Anyway, there you go. That's awesome. I really appreciate it, and I'll send you all your thumbnails and your links and things in a few weeks when I put it up.
Right. Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right. Cheers. Bye. Bye, Rob.